Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I belong to you. I belong to you. Do just what you want.
Welcome back to another episode of Ink and Echo, the space where real life meets raw truth and every story finds a voice. I'm your host, Telby Faye, and today's episode is one I know will stay with you long after it ends. It's titled My Life, My Truth, and My Story, and our guest Stevie is here to take us on a journey through the pages of his life, what he's been through and the moments that could have broken him, but instead, they shaped him, and this is more than just an interview. It's a testament of the power of owning your truth. Stevie, welcome to Ink and Echo. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's start at the very beginning. In your early years, who was Stevie before the world really saw you? Before the labels, the titles, and even the pain? What was your world like growing up? Yeah, we jumping right into it.
Okay. As a kid, I grew up with, of course, both my parents. Both my parents were ministers and highly involved in the church. I was involved or liked church as a kid too, as well. And I feel like I was a kid that really enjoyed music and church, and being around like the mothers of the church. They were very influential in my life and really had a great impact, I felt, and they were very nurturing. And I know you mentioned before the pain, but I feel like even as a child, that was a part of who I was because that's what I experienced. So I would say, as a kid, just, school, I didn't like school. I did not like school. I hated school because I felt like it was punishment for me. I would go to school and I would either be bullied, and I don't know if that was a combination of me being skinny or because of, maybe me not knowing how to either wash properly and smelling like urine because I peed in the bed. So that, and then I felt like the abuse, I didn't realize it was abuse until my therapist told me that I was being abused. And that, I came to that realization because as a kid, my father used to put me through a chair and, the white lawn chairs, and would whoop me and then take breaks and come back, take cigarette breaks and come back. So there was some trauma with that. Or I remember laying in the hardwood floor, and where he would make me lay on the floor butt naked and stand on my neck or put his foot on my neck and whoop me. So, I had those experiences as a kid where the traumatizing that you have this person who is beating on you or abusing you or saying that they love you, but it does not equate to what I think love should look like. So, yeah,
Right.
I would say that, but that was a major part, but I still tried to have like hope where singing in church was my outlet. That was the place where I would go. And even if at the time as a kid, not really knowing who God is, it just seemed fun. It just seemed fun to be in church. It seemed fun to hear the music and hear the soulfulness of the people and just have that experience. But overall, I feel like I was just a lonely kid. Though I had a younger sister, there was a 5 age difference. So we really didn't get a chance. I feel like there was still some difference in views and relatability to different things because of the fact that, I was the older brother, she's the younger sister, and I don't really have a lot of friends at the time. So I was just a kid that just kind of, stayed to myself. I played video games. I had my one friend in the neighborhood that I hung out with from time to time, but that, and then, drugs was a big thing in my family. My father, though a minister, he did drugs. And so, a lot of moving around, a lot of evictions and moving from place to place, seeing abuse between my parents, physical, verbal abuse. So those different things happened. Though it was limited, it was still traumatizing things I can remember.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You sit before me, this strong adult who survived all of that stuff. I applaud your courage and your resilience, and I'm glad you made it through that. It's a lot. And I can, on my level, I can totally relate. I too have a similar story, so I empathize with everything that you said. But when you think about your childhood, were there moments or people who planted seeds in you that would later shape your resilience?
I think my grandmother was one of those people. My grandmother was, she bragged about working at Chrysler, and, she was the one though she was very stern and sometimes, I feel like she was negative in the things that she said or how she interacted. She was very nurturing and I learned a lot of skills from her. So cleaning and brushing my teeth and doing different things of manual labor, laying tile on the floor and fixing sinks and gardening and all of those different things. Those were the memories that I remember from her because of the fact that though she may have been mean or the person that I felt was just like, it was it was a safe place to go to her house. I can still remember smelling like she would have like coconut in her car. And so it was like some type of I don't know if it was coconut oil or some type of fragrance or whatever it was. It was like the smell of coconut in her house and in her cars. It was always a refreshing smell when you would get in her car. It was like, oh, okay, it smelled like coconut. So yeah, I remember that. Um, just
You
being
smell
anxious to
coconut
go
and
to
you
her
be like, there
house.
go grandma.
Yeah, but even after me no longer being at her house, there are times I still smell it. It reminds me of her. And, so I remember those moments and cooking. That was one of the things too that was really big with her. Like she always baked cakes and pies. And for Thanksgiving and holidays, we would go to her house and I was the one in the kitchen. So my mother didn't even cook. So it was like she cooked, but it wasn't like, soul food type of thing. So when my grandmother, I used to love to go there because she would cook all these different things, and I would learn so much from like just being in the kitchen. I wondered. Well, I can't say that made me gay, but it makes you think about some of the things like, oh, you do some of these things. Like, was that the,
Right. Right. So that brings me to my next question. So we all have moments that shift us, sometimes for the better, sometimes it leaves scars.
Mhm.
Was there a turning point in your life where you knew that things would never be the same? Like you were like, things are never going to be the same after this.
When you say will never be the same, in what aspect? What are you referring to exactly?
Anything has like anything ever transpire in your life where afterwards you're like, man, things aren't ever gonna be the same again. Like, have you had any
Okay.
of those moments in your life?
I would say, yeah, yeah, there were moments like that when I was in, I'm trying to think where's the first time. I would say, um, when I guess when I was robbed at gunpoint, that was one of the traumatizing things that I felt like my life would never be the same because I was robbed at gunpoint and I was pistol whipped. And so I even have a scar to this day where, I had to get stitches and stuff like that. And they put the gun in my mouth, when he was talking to his buddy or whatever, saying, should he shoot me or kill this MF or so. It was a life-changing moment for me because it was a near-death experience. And so it really made me look at life differently of what do I want out of this life? And, so I ran away from home when I was 16. So I think that was another experience too, like really being able to leave home. I didn't just leave home. I left the state. I went to a whole different state, because in Michigan, you're considered an adult at 16. And so I left, I had a boyfriend at that time and, my mother was not accepting. She was not, understanding. And it was mainly more of a religious or, a Bible type of response where, she took me to several pastors, I guess
Mm-hmm.
hoping they would convince me, to, I guess, change my sexuality or my thought process or something, or I'm not sure what was the whole objective, but, that, and then, no longer going to the church that, I was, wanted to go to. And there was some experience with that where going to the church, it had got around, I guess, that I had messed around with one of the guys in the church. And
Mm.
I felt like that was something that really drove me away from the church. That was one experience that made me not want to be bothered with church because I have the people that say that they love me and they don't treat me like what God is. And I have people, I feel like my mom at the time, she was not, supportive or in my corner. So what do I need to be at home for? And then, of course, my father being murdered. My father was murdered when I was 10. And so, losing, though he may have caused some trauma or did some things within my life, he was the only man that I knew in some way that I looked up to. And that, I thought this is what a man was supposed to be. And so losing him and seeing other children with their fathers and having someone that to go to the game or to do different things with and spend time. My father, though my father was abusive, just to add context to it, he was very nurturing. He was very nurturing, very loving. And I think that's why I am somewhat the way I am. And so I feel like losing my father was a really traumatic experience because I felt abandoned. I felt abandoned in that my mother worked nights. So losing my father, it was so much going on where my father passes. Then we move out of, because we were staying with my grandmother because my father and mother were separated. And so then we live with my grandmother. My grandmother kicks us out. We move out, we go get our own place. And then my mother's working nights. So it's a traumatizing experience of so much happening at once, of losing your father, moving to a whole new school district where you don't know anybody. You're at a predominantly white school. So all of these different people, you don't even feel like you have a sense of culture and belonging anymore. So a lot of those different things was rapidly happening. And I'm alone. My mom works nights. I have to be at home with the street lights on. I don't know anybody in the area. So it was a lot going on where it just made me feel like, where I experienced moments of depression and wanting to commit suicide. Because it was like, I felt nobody cared. Nobody loved me. And I was just, I didn't know how to process it as a kid. I didn't know what.
It's powerful. Yeah, that's a lot. It's very powerful, and thank you for sharing. So in that season of your life, what kept you moving forward when everything in you probably wanted to stop? Like you just said it, that you got to points where you actually wanted to commit suicide. So what made you keep going?
I think in some way it was fear. Fear of how like some people say, oh, I want to commit suicide, but it takes a bold person to actually commit it and do it. And I felt like in some ways with the whole religion thing, it made it seem like, oh, well, if I kill myself, then I'm going to hell. And so I didn't want to have that fate. So that was part of the reason why I never all the way went through with what it was. Though I may have tried or attempted to, I felt like it wasn't, there was still something to live for. I feel like at a point where life wasn't all bad, I still found ways to make myself happy, whether it was sex, whether it was pornography, whether it was hanging out with friends and drinking, whether it was just being amongst and with somebody else, or being hugged up with somebody, or just feeling like somebody loved me. It was just moments that I created at that time before I really discovered who I am or who I was. It was almost like I was finding ways to self-medicate. So yeah, that I would say that. And then of
A lot of
course,
times when we're
well, I shouldn't
growing,
say of course, I smoked marijuana. Say it again.
I was saying, of course, that a lot of times that's what we do, especially when we don't realize that there's help out there, especially as African Americans. There was a time when mental health was like taboo. Going to see a therapist was taboo. So people
Mm-hmm.
did things like self-medicate.
Yeah.
And
And
so you say you
say
smoke
when
marijuana.
yes, I was a heavy weed smoker. I was a heavy weed smoker, and that's always sometimes surprising when I tell people like, oh, you just look like you this good guy. You don't do anything. No, baby, I live, and I still living, but I live for
You was feeling
fulfillment,
you
where
was
it's
feeling
like,
good. Right.
yeah, so now it's more in an influential, impactful way where I live with love and I live to inspire others.
Amazing.
So yeah, and
Oh,
I
you
think
definitely inspire me.
one of the last points that I felt that was really life changing, or I knew my life would never be again, is when I was diagnosed with HIV. That's when I really knew that my life was different. I thought that my life was over. Now, at that point, I really thought I fell into a state of depression, had a nervous breakdown, and, I really thought my life was over. And, my doctors, I remember my doctor, Dr. Ojen, because the doctors before them, I was taking medicine and it was causing me to have rashes, break out, different things like that. But I'll never forget my Dr. Ojen. and I was taking something at the time called a tripla. I think it's called a tripla. It was one of the worst drugs they ever could have prescribed and caused hallucinations and all of these different things. And, I stopped taking it because of the hallucinations and the suicidal thought. It enhanced the suicidal thoughts. And so I remember Dr. Ogen, he told me, I told him, I said, if you can't give me something that's going to work without all of the side effects, I'm not going to take anything and I'm going to die. I remember saying that to him. And he said, well, no. He said, I'm going to give you a cocktail. I'm going to give you some medications and I'm going to make sure you're all right. And I wish I could find him. I know he's back home somewhere in Michigan, but I wish I could find him and thank him because he saved my life. If it had not been for him, I don't think I would have lived. So, after that, I feel like that was the turning point for me to really start wanting to live because he told me it wasn't a death sentence. It was just something, bump in the road that I just had to get over.
And thankfully now there's so many advances in the medical field that have made living with HIV, like you said, not a death sentence. And you look very healthy to me. And I'm glad I can assume that you are doing well. And I'm thankful for
Thank
the
you.
advances in healthcare that they're doing now, as far as the HIV medications are concerned. I'm not too familiar with it all, but I know of it. My mother had HIV. She passed away from complications related to that, but I remember it feeling like a death sentence when she told me that she found out she had that. I think I bawled and cried more than she did. And all I could think was like, oh my goodness,
Wow.
my mother, how long is she going to be here? How long was she positive? Like, what are we going to do? But it ended up, like I said, she did pass away from complications, but there was a long stretch of time where she was non-detectable because of all the advancements with the treatment for HIV. So I'm glad that doctor saved your life and that you are here with us today. So the title of this episode, My Life, My Truth, and My Story. So the truth can be a scary thing to speak out loud. And you've been speaking so much truth so far. You have really, pulled back the layers and you've given us a deep look into your life. So getting over the diagnosis and everything with you, aside from that, what was the hardest truth you've had to tell yourself, and maybe even the world, aside from being HIV positive?
The world owes me nothing. Don't nobody owe me anything. And because I have accepted that reality that nobody owes me anything, I work hard and I fight for what I want.
And that's how it's supposed to be. You work hard and you're a go-getter. You want it, you go get it. The world doesn't owe you anything. It's good to know that you have that attitude because there's so many people who have a sense of entitlement and they don't want to work for anything. But once you have that reality in your mind, it's limitless of what you can accomplish. And I think there's so much courage in saying that out loud because when you do, it stops having control over you. The world doesn't owe you anything. Some people feel they can't get ahead because the world owes them something, but it's really themselves. They're keeping themselves stagnated, unable to progress in their life. So looking back, what's one lesson that life has taught you that you didn't want to learn at the time, but now you see that it was necessary for you to learn that lesson?
I would say being able to, when I ran away from home, that was a major lesson for me, realizing that, again, like I said, the world doesn't owe me anything, and the world does not play fair. These streets are rough out here, and the streets are not fair, because I remember there were times that I was homeless, sleeping on the floor when, at one point they called them, or I was part of a house, if you want to call it that. But I realized that, life wasn't fair. And so in order for me to succeed in things that I wanted to, because I didn't want to be a person in jail or locked up. I didn't want to be a booster or stealing and robbing and those type of things the rest of my life. So I had to come and make a decision on what I wanted my life to look like. And so, that's when, after being a high school dropout, I went and got my GED. I mean, went on to get my associates, my bachelor's, and now my master's. So, but those were all things that I had to come into on my own, understand with education. I remember Miss Loretta. Miss Loretta was one of my cousin / one of my good friends' aunts. And so Miss Loretta and Dolores, I called her Aunt Dolores and Aunt Rosetta. I said Loretta, Rosetta. So I called both of them were very influential in making or encouraging me to go to school. When I went to school, I initially was not thinking about going to when I went to college, like she begged me to go. I was not going for the education. I was only going for the money because I was getting a check. And, so that was like, oh, wow, I'm going to get a check every month or every semester if I go to school. So that was the initial reason. But then once, I realized that I could get the check and the education, I was like, okay, well then why not? Let's do both. And so while I was focusing on the money, it was enhancing who I was as an individual. And I was learning so much just how to navigate society and being able to understand the state of Black people, some of the things that I've been exposed to and why and how. And it helped me to start piecing things together and really understanding who I am and why some of the things may have happened to, my family members and why they treated me the way that they did. It helped me to gain an understanding and really opposed to being upset with them to really give and be forgiving because of the fact that now I understand that there are certain things that may have played in their life that resulted in them turning out how they did, which ultimately, caused them to treat me as a child the way they did. So it helped me to come to a place of really forgiving and understanding.
That's deep. So I think a lot of our listeners can relate to learning something the hard way, but like later on in life, realizing that it actually saved them. Again, I can relate and attest to that. It's almost like your life and mine are parallel. One day I will tell my story, but I am just so proud of you and you going for your master's. I remember you told me that you're about to go for your master's degree, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm graduated June 30th.
With your master's?
Yes, with my master's. I graduated June 30th.
We have to celebrate that.
Thank you. Okay.
We have to celebrate that. Oh, amazing. And what is your master's in?
Public health. So being that, of status, of course, I like to advocate for others. I want to be and continue with my current job. I do advocate for people that are HIV positive. And so that's something I enjoy, a way of giving back. So, I'm going to continue to do that with me further in my education.
Yes, amazing. And congratulations on your master's degree. That is so awesome and wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So when people hear the name Stevie years from now, you're welcome. Stevie J. Lynch years from now, what do you hope comes to their mind? What's the legacy you want your life and your truth to leave behind?
That I was a change maker, that I'm not just a name of, that someone knows, but I want to be an impact that when people speak of me, they can say that I enhanced, that I impacted their life in a positive way, that I was a voice of influence, and that I left a legacy for other people to follow or pick up the baton and carry on.
I will definitely say that you have an influence on me even before, we started having our conversations and getting to know each other a little better. You taught Vacation Bible School last year. And I thought it was like so cool and so brave. I'm like, oh, I can never get up and stand up in front of people and do that. But aside from that, you are just always a breath of fresh air. Every time I see you, you're just so warm and welcoming. And I'm happy that we have crossed paths. I'm so thankful for you. And also, we are about to embark on this project to get your life story out there and get your story told. We're writing a book, y'all. We are writing a book. Stevie is going to have his book come live soon. We will keep you posted. We will keep you posted in the coming months. He is finally doing it. He's taking all his writings and he's putting it out there, y'all. Right, Stevie? We gonna put it out there.
Right. Yes. Yes. I can't wait. So you
So
said that
before we wrap
that you were in class when I taught.
yeah, you taught Vacation Bible School last year, and I was at the Vacation Bible School.
You know,
I think you taught it with Minister
wow,
Kwanzaa, correct?
Kwanzaa. Yeah, Mr. Kwanzaa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's you know, you
Mm-hmm.
never really know
Yep.
the impact or the people that you know that are watching you. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I don't remember you being in class. So it's like, wow, some people saw me, like, you know, wow, okay, that's good to know.
Well, see, back then I wasn't on the
And I
mother's
thank you for
board. I
sharing that.
still sang in the choir, but I was always the type to be, of course, I was always the type to be in the background. So a lot of times I don't get noticed because I'm so quiet and I like to be in the background. But I do remember
Hmm.
that Vacation Bible School, and I had gone to the other ones, and I thought yours was like very. I was like, man, this is good. I enjoy all the Vacation Bible School classes, but yours was one of the ones that stuck out and stuck with me. And again, like from then, even crossing, paths in church, you always speak, you're always very pleasant. So I am happy that our paths are getting a little closer, and we're gonna make your story one of the best stories out there. But before we wrap it up, I want to have a little
Thank
fun.
you.
Let's do my Ink and Echo lightning round. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Ready? All right. So are
Ready.
you a morning person or a night person?
A morning person.
Morning person or night person? A song that always
I
lifts
think
your
I'm
spirit.
morning. I love Whitney Houston, so anything Whitney Houston, I love a Whitney Houston song. That's my favorite artist.
Okay. So what's the last thing that made you laugh?
I guess my dog. She's always. I love my dog, Lady. She's very full of joy. Like, you know, it's just like she just. I don't know how to describe it, but she's a very hyperactive dog, but she's always like happy and excited, which makes me laugh to see her, like, you know, even if I'm mad at her or something like that, or she's
See
still
her
like just happy and full of energy. It's just kind of like, yeah. And so that energy rubs off on me.
That sounds like my dog Gia. It's like you could do anything to her and she's still wagging her tail. And then, when she sees you, you would think that you were gone for a whole week, the way she's just jumping up and down. And then she's a little dog too. So like just seeing her jump up and down constantly, it definitely gives me a laugh. Okay, so what is a quote or mantra you live by?
I live in the moment, not by the moment.
It took me a long time to learn how to do that. I'm still learning. Maybe that's something you can help me with. So, if you could tell your younger self one sentence, what would it be?
Not everybody that smiles in your face is smiling because they want to see you win.
Thank you for that, Stevie. Thank you so much for trusting us with your life, your truth, and your story. Your courage, your honesty is going to touch someone who really needs to hear this. Thank you so much for being here. Ink and Echo thanks you for being a guest on our show. And we hope to have you back again when you drop your book.
All right. Sounds great.
And to our listeners, I hope today's episode reminded you that your story matters. Whether it's messy, unfinished, or still being written, it's yours and no one can take it from you. Until next time, keep living in truth, keep writing your story, and keep listening and let your voice echo. And we're
Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I belong to you. I belong to you.